Hola, so today is the second day of the 5 days discussion on 7 points on mind training. And the motivation for listening to the teaching should be based on what we see in our daily life. If you look at people's life, in one way or the other, people have challenges, people have difficulties, people have problems. So that is how we need to pull through our life. So with this realization that wherever possible, although we are not perfect, but wherever possible, it is really important to try to be helpful to others and not to harm others. And that is what His Holiness says. He summarizes the Buddha's teaching by saying, if it is possible to help others, help them as much as you can. And if you cannot help, at least refrain from harming them. With the realization that all of us have one or the other problem. It's only a question of knowing and asking people, what is their problem, And so it's always important to remember that all these people are struggling, moving here and there, in search of peace and happiness and not finding enough. So with this realization, we should play our part to make a little bit contribution in making others' life happier and more peaceful. So that is basically the basis of these teachings. So these things should be implemented, not just discussed or talked about. That is very, very important, okay? So without getting too digressed, now of course we will, in this 5 days, 5 sessions, which means 5 hours only, we will try to go quickly through this mind life 7 points on mind training. But what is important is that you make it a point to study this text later on. Okay, now luckily, if you read this text, which is the commentary, which is called Lojong Nyime, that means mind training, which is like the rays of the sun, which is composed by Tsongkhapa's disciple. And this, I think, can be bought from Hirik Parkha, but it's very cheap. The publications from there are very cheap. Then also a translation and commentary of these 2 translations and commentaries of this text is available in English from the library. One commentary by His Holiness Dalai Lama, which I myself had the privilege of working on their book, and which the library has reproduced later on. Then there's also another book which contains the commentary of Geshe Lhakdor. So all these books are available there. Okay? So read those books. Then, so yesterday we completed paying homage to great compassion. And the next line reads, the essence of this nectar, Menga Duji Nyingbone, the essence of this nectar of secret instruction. Menga Duji Nyingbone Seling Pani Jubai. The essence of this nectar of secret instruction is transmitted from the Master from Suwan the Dipa. Suwan Sanasirwa Dvipa Sanaling Seling Pani Jubai. Okay? So if you have time, then try to read the biography of Lama Suwandepa. Selingba was a great teacher, and his actual name is Selingba Chujitakba. He was a great teacher from Suwandepa, which is present Indonesia. Okay? And he was at that time a very, very famous teacher, especially in the practice of bodhicitta, and he was born as a prince of a king. And it is said that when he was born, the place was, people living there were not necessarily Buddhists, there were different diverse religious traditions that there. But he was born with keen interest in the Buddhist teaching. There are clear indications of that he is a great being who had intentionally taken birth to help suffering sentient beings. So therefore, he had a lot of followers, a lot of students, and having heard his great name and fame, Atisha decided that I must receive this teaching from Suwandepa. now traveling from India in those days, and which the old biography says that it took 13 months in the sea. Imagine the boat that they are using at that time. Many occasions when they nearly died because of the waves and the hurricanes and so forth. So it's a very, very moving and amazing story how much they have struggled. So if you thereby later on, if you read Adisha's own story, that he was one of the topmost scholar in Vikramshila monastery, and he was very famous at that time, and the Tibetan king, how much effort they made, especially Lama Yeshiva, who wanted to, because around those days in Tibet there were like different visiting Indian teachers who are not necessarily good, and it was the time after Langtharma had destroyed Buddhism there. So therefore many fake teachers were coming up, and also Indian teachers were coming there to get the Tibetan gold. And so they were spreading all kind of teachings, you see, wrong teachings. Okay? So therefore Lama Yeshiva, he felt that I must make it a point to invite him. And when he was making this effort and traveling around, he was caught by this Muslim king, Khalok Gyarbo, Muslim king, and he was imprisoned. Okay? And then his younger brother, Lama Yeshiva, he visited there, and then that king said, if you bring certain amount of gold, then I will release him. But when he brought gold, every time he said, no, more than this, more than this. Finally he collected gold almost the size of the body of a person. Still he said, no, you have to bring, still the head part is not complete. You need to bring gold, equal to the weight of a human being. And then his, brother, I think elder brother or something, I am not so sure, Lama Changju Yeshiva, he said, no, now I thought you are a pampered child, and you will not be able to undergo a lot of hardship. Now you worked so hard, you collected so much gold, clearly showing that you can do great things. So now even if I die here in the prison, I have no regret. So don't waste this gold, giving it to the Muslim king to release me, but instead use this gold to send people to India to invite, if possible, Atisha, if not possible, other teachers. It's a very moving story. Okay, very moving story. You should read that. And then, it's a long story. Then finally, when Atisha was, they tried, even before that, they said Naksulosawa, great translator. And even before that, another Tibetan translator, Gyatsundu Singhe, was there. And he made several requests to Atisha, could not invite. Then the Tibetan king sent this famous translator, Naksulosawa. Okay? And both of them tried to invite him. It was really difficult because all other Indian abbots and great teachers, they say, he is the most distinguished scholar here. So if you take him, it's a great, disservice to this institution, so you can't take them. Okay? And these Tibetan translators went to secretly one day found a special opportunity to meet Atisha quietly, And then they told all story how much the Tibetan kings made effort to bring correct Buddhism to Tibet, and then wept and cried, how the Tibetan king died in the prison and all the stories. Atisha was highly moved. And but he consulted few other personal deities, and Tara was one of his personal deity. So he consulted a number of deities, and then they all give the indication that it's good that you go to Tibet. Okay, so this is a long story. So, but he was not getting the permission from the institute. So then Atisha and the Tibetan translators, they said, we are going for a pilgrimage to Bodh Gaya and some other places. So they went further and further and further, and then gradually went to Tibet. So having reached Tibet, Lama Yeshiva requested him to give a teaching which is based on law of karma. karma and their result. We don't need a very profound, complicated teaching, but a teaching that could really change people's life, which is related to law of karma. So then Atisha was very pleased that such a wonderful request was made, which is a practical request. Then he composed this text called Lamp of the Path to Enlightenment, which later on became the basis of all the Lamrim texts that we see today. And then it is said that when this text was sent back to India, then the Indian teachers there, they said, "Oh, we are glad that you composed such a wonderful text. If you had remained in India, we are sure you will have not written such a text." So like that. So it's a very, very moving story. So from there we can see how much many of these Tibetan kings and great teachers like Atisha and Shantarakshita and Kamalashila, how much they have sacrificed, endured difficulties to preserve this Buddhist teaching and make it available in Tibet. Okay? So therefore, like we don't have to make that kind of effort. The texts are there, even the translations are there. And luckily, still we have really good teachers who can teach this, you see. So if we don't make a little bit of effort, then what is it? That is not good. We should make effort, really. That's why His Holiness is talking so much about preserving this precious Buddhist teaching. Because these precious Buddhist teachings, they are not so much about metaphysical things. It talks about things which is related to the law of nature, how you can live a good life, how you can be of benefit and service to others, how you can enjoy peace from life after life, you know. So these are like pragmatic, teachings which can be compared to the scientific ways of understanding things, Okay. So therefore we should feel lucky that we have access to such wonderful teachings. So that is the meaning of the essence of this nectar and the cigarette instruction. Okay, the essence of this nectar of cigarette instruction. Nectar, this teaching itself is compared to a nectar, because all the 84,000 classes of teaching that the Buddha gave, and the teachings that is contained in the three turnings of the wheel of the doctrine, if you try to summarize all of these teachings, then the purpose of all this teaching is to simply help the mistaken grasping mind which perceives an I which has inherent independent existence. As I briefly explained yesterday we spoke about two enemies. Which are they? Self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping, out of which I clearly said the most dangerous, is the ignorance. Ignorance means self-grasping. Ignorance means self-grasping. Self-grasping means seeing things as having inherent independent existence. So therefore this teaching is saying that all the 84,000 classes of teachings of the Buddha and the three turning of the wheel of the doctrine, all of these teachings are basically aimed to fight the self-grasping. You don't need to talk so much. If you do one thing, if you are able to identify the real enemy, the ignorance, which is self-grasping, which is seeing things as having inherent existence, if you are able to get rid of that, or even if you are unable to get rid of, if you are able to lessen the impact of this mistaken mind, your life will be much, much peaceful and happier. Many of the stupid things we are doing will come to an end. That we need to understand. So right from the beginning it says all the countless teachings of the Buddha are directed towards removing the self-grasping. Self-grasping means seeing things as having independent existence. That is the root cause of all problems, because as I briefly explained yesterday, but you need to remember, seeing things as having inherent existence or independent existence, that is the root cause of all the problem, because then we tend to see those objects that we like as absolutely wonderful, absolutely amazing. Okay? So with this kind of conception, there is a reason that you get obsessed with that object. You get obsessed with that object. Absolutely wonderful, absolutely beautiful, absolutely handsome. Without this, I can't live. I must have this one. You get stuck there, you get obsessed there. That's the meaning. That's how attachment arises. Likewise, when you dislike something, and particularly the object that you dislike, you tend to see that object as 100% negative, 100% horrible. For example, your enemy. Now if you see that enemy as 100% negative, 100% horrible, kind of incorrigible, then how can you think about having a negotiation and dialogue? It's only His Holiness who talks about having negotiation and dialogue with the Chinese leaders. See, you can see the difference. Ordinary people like us will think, oh, this rocks, these Chinese leaders. How can we have a dialogue, negotiation with them? How can we trust them, you see? Because we tend to see them as 100% negative, 100% horrible. Whereas His Holiness has the bigger perspective, therefore He talks about negotiation, He talks about dialogue, you see. Clear? So if it is something that you don't like, then you develop this tendency 100% negative, therefore rejection, get lost, have nothing to do with it, go to hell, whatever. And when you like something, oh, you're so wonderful, so good, I need to be in touch with you all the time, you must be with me all the time, you see. You become blind, that's called obsession, you get stuck there. So we need to understand these things. That's why the text says, all the countless teachings of the Buddha, the aim of all these teachings is to eradicate this enemy, self-grasping. Because from self-grasping arises hatred. From it arises attachment and all other afflictive emotions. Now if you read, not only if you read, but please read His Holiness's book, Universe in a Single Atom, which is a comparative study of Buddhist philosophical views and also scientific views. There you will find some quotations from some leading scientists where they also, based on their, not because they have studied Buddhism, but based on their own truth, their own scientific study, they found that the separation, the conflict that we see in the world is because of seeing each other as having inherent, independent existence. They found it. Okay? But whereas the reality is everything is interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. And it is because of this interdependence, interrelation, we must be nice to others. Like this hand is dependent on this hand. Therefore, if this hand gets hurt, this hand has to go and help it, nurse it. Because they are connected. And actually this is left hand, this is right hand. So why the right hand should worry about the left hand? We can say things like that, okay, I'm left hand, I'm right hand, I don't care about what happens to the left hand or to the right hand. You have to care because you're connected, you're dependent, like that. Okay? So that one thing you should remember, that's one of the main focus of our teaching. So the two enemies are and self-grasping. These two are the source, especially the self-grasping. These two are the source of all the problems. Now there are two positive counter forces, antidotes against these two enemies. And what are they? Bodhicitta is antidote to what? Bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding, emptiness. These two are the antidotes, counter forces against these two enemies. So bodhicitta is a counter force against self-cherishing attitude. Wisdom, understanding, emptiness is the antidote to self-grasping. How? Because self-cherishing attitude is a mind which thinks about just oneself and completely ignore the well-being of others. So bodhicitta is an antidote to this, because bodhicitta is a mind which says, how nice if I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that's the antidote. And that ignorance, the self-grasping, is a mind which sees things as having independent existence. Whereas wisdom realizing emptiness is a mind which sees things as having dependent existence, interdependent existence. So that is the antidote. So the two most important qualities that is taught here in this text, and which must be cultivated by us, the two most important concepts here is these two: bodhicitta and wisdom understanding emptiness. So they will be called by the name conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Conventional bodhicitta means bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta means not bodhicitta, but ultimate bodhicitta refers to wisdom understanding emptiness. Clear? Clear? Because you need to get something. The two enemies, two counter forces. Two enemies are self-cherishing attitude, self-grasping. The two counter forces are bodhicitta, wisdom understanding emptiness. So that's the focus of this text. 7 points mind training. Okay? If you remember that, whether you study Lamrim or you study any mind training, these two will be always with the focus. Because one which really obstructs us making any spiritual progress is this self-cherishing attitude. Thinking just about oneself and forgetting about others. There's the disease, not only for higher Buddhist practices and the spiritual enlightenment, but also in our endeavor to have happiness and harmony in the world. What obstructs that endeavor to have happiness and harmony is this mind that thinks just about oneself. It's the one which stops progress in the society. It is the one which stops about well-being of other people, you see. So that's the enemy. And for you also it is not good, because it makes you narrow-minded. Just thinking about oneself, I. And it is scientifically found that those people who talk so much about I, me and mine, they are more prone to all kind of diseases, including heart attack. Scientifically it is proved. Amazing. And in Buddhism, this is one of the target, as I said. That this self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude is the target that must be shot, that must be eliminated. It's in the Madhyamika Avtara. First you develop this obsession with me, I, then you get obsession with mine, I, me and mine, you see. And because of this obsession with I, me and mine, you get entrapped in the cycle of existence, just like rings of buckets are entrapped in a well, When you see such a nature, then you naturally develop compassion to other sentient beings. Clear? The essence of this nectar of secret instruction, the essence of all the teachings of the Buddha, is to fight this self-grasping. Clear? Nectar, it has been compared to nectar, which in Sanskrit is called Amrit. Amrit, which means state where there is no death. Immortality. Amrit. If you take that kind of nectar, you will reach a state of no death. If you consult the experienced doctor who knows how to prepare such a nectar, then if you take that nectar, you will not die. Similarly, If you cultivate this nectar-like bodhicitta, then all the shortcomings, problems, difficulties in the samsara, like suffering of birth, suffering of aging, suffering of sickness, suffering of death, you will be able to free yourself from all this. Right? I mean, even on a very ordinary level, the more you have this kind, loving, compassionate mind, the less you will age, the less you will become sick. The more you have this self-cherishing attitude, always thinking about what will happen to me, me, I, me and mine, the sooner you will age, the more the wrinkles will appear on your forehead, you see. And quicker one will die. Because if you're angry, you may be driving a car, you get angry, you bump into something, This is as an example like that. Right? And with this practice, then you will be able to gradually achieve enlightenment, which of course is the highest state that you can achieve. So this precious mind of bodhicitta is compared to that nectar. Okay? And then, as I briefly explained earlier, so this lineage of practice of bodhicitta came from the great teacher Swandipa, Lama Selingpa, who passed the complete teaching to Adisha Dibamkar Shirijan, and who passed it to one of his great teacher, a lay person, Domtum Jalvenjung Domdemba. And he then gradually passed it through many of his students, and finally it came to Potova. And it was this Potova who spread this practice of studying the 6 famous Kadamba texts. Birth stories of the Buddha, the kind of Dhammapada, the compendium of teachings of the Buddha, and the Sutra Alamkara, Bodhisattva Bhumi, Shiksha Samuchaya, and Bodhichara Avatara. These are the 6 Kadamba texts. And he in turn also had many great teachers, and one of the top one was Chekawa, who possessed all the pith instructions and practices, and who in turn had many students, out of which it was Chekawa Ishidorje, who had written this 7-point mind training, whose main responsibility was to transmit this special teaching on bodhicitta, Chekawa. Geshe Chekawa is said to be a great teacher who had memorized many great texts, but somehow he was not very satisfied. And he always thought that there must be a special text by which I will get a clear sense how can I achieve enlightenment. So once he received this teaching of 8 verses of mind training by Langri Thangpa, another great teacher of mind training, and he developed a lot of faith there. And when he reached Lhasa, he wanted to find out the sources of these mind training teachings. So while he was searching, some of the teachers or friends, they suggested that the teacher from whom you should receive such a teaching should be like a sun or a moon, which you can carry on your shoulder and display to others. This is my teacher, you see. Must be a good teacher. And then they also told him that the one teacher that we know which you can really display and show off is Sharawa and Chayulwa. You should go to one of them. And so that's how he went to Sharawa. And when he went to see Sharawa, at that time Sharawa was giving some teachings on Sarvaka, texts. And his mind was a little bit not very happy with that text. After having listened to that, he became a little bit confused and a little bit lost, not very satisfying. So he was not sure whether this teacher Chekawa really has this lineage of the mind training text and whether he can practice or not. And if he says that I don't have the lineage and you can't practice, then I will move to some other place. So one day when the rest of the monks were invited by someone else for a lunch or something, and this great teacher, Chekawa, he was circumambulating the stupa. So he quickly approached him and spread a small seat there. Said, "Great teacher, can you please sit for a moment? I have some questions." And then he said, "What questions do you have? I have explained everything when I was teaching." And then he recited this 8 verses of mind training. And he said, "I have also seen such kind of, teaching lineage. And sometimes when your mind becomes unruly and wild, and you get difficulties not getting an accommodation or small things like that, or when you are affronted by, despised and looked down by somebody, then when you recite this 8 verses of mind training, it is beneficial. So that much I can say. But I'm not sure whether this is something that I should be practicing or not. So this is one of my questions." And then Chekawa said, Chekawa said, and his question was whether this practice of mind training, like 8 verses of mind training, becomes a cause to become Buddha or not. So this great Chekawa, he was counting his mantra on a big rosary, and while doing so he said, "I don't know, it's up to you whether you can practice or not. If you can practice it, there's no question about achieving enlightenment. You will definitely by such practice achieve enlightenment. And if you don't follow such a path, you will never get enlightened." So when he heard this, then he felt that the way he is saying shows that this teacher really has personal experience. But he wanted to confirm that. He said, "Yeah, what you said really makes sense, but it should be authoritative. So therefore, on what sources of preceding great teachers you can find the source of this teaching?" And then this was answered by Chekawa by saying that who is there who does not see Nagarjuna as a valid teacher? And if you read his precious garland, then it's all there. "May all the sufferings and problems ripen on me. May I be able to give all my peace and happiness to others." That is the mind training. That is the source. And then he was highly moved and said, "I am somebody who is very interested in this teaching. So please be compassionate and give me this teaching." And then Chekawa said, "Okay, in that case you need to spend some time with me. If you spend some time here, then gradually I can help you, I can teach you this." But then he again asked a question, "But if this is such an important teaching, then how come that when you were teaching you did not even made a hint on this, in the importance of this teaching?" Then Geshe Lhakdor replied, "It doesn't really matter whether the teaching is profound or not, but who is going to practice these things today? So therefore I did not speak about it." See. So anyway, so this ended. This made Chekawa to spend 14 years at the feet of this great teacher Chekawa, and underwent a lot of hardships. And later on, he himself became a great teacher, and he had a following of more than 900 monks and things like that. So these are some of the stories. Okay. So we don't need to read this whole thing. But this teaching, 7-point mind training, has its source also in Bodhisattva by Shantideva. So it will be explained from their point of view in this text, mind training like the rays of the sun. Then in order to cultivate respect to the teaching, the next lines highlight the greatness of this instruction, revealing the features of the doctrine to engender respect for the instruction. Because you should see the importance of this teaching. You should understand the significance of this instruction as like a diamond, like a sun, and like a medicinal tree. This time of the 5 degeneration will then be transformed into the path to the fully awakened state. Okay? So just as in the case of a diamond, if you have a complete diamond, then of course it will be able to remove lots of your poverty and things like that. But even if you get a piece of that broken diamond, even that will become an excellent ornament and cannot be matched by any other, jewels and gems. They're very costly and very, very important in removing poverty and things like that. So likewise, what need to say about the benefit if you are able to develop the complete instruction of cultivation of bodhicitta? Even if you are able to develop a partial understanding of the process of cultivation of this bodhicitta, you will get the name of a bodhisattva. Just like the broken diamond is a diamond. Similarly, even if you are able to develop a part of the meaning of this instruction, it will make you enter into the path of bodhisattva. And that practice will make you excel from the practices of the Sarvakas and the Patika Buddhas. And all the poverties that you see in the samsara will be removed. So there's the meaning of just like a diamond. And also like a sun. That means the full disk of the sun, wherever there's a sun, that shining disk of the sun cannot be covered by any darkness. Right? Not only that, even the rays of the sun that spreads into different directions, wherever the rays of the suns go, in those areas and places where there is the rays of the sun, there will be no opportunity for the darkness to appear. Similarly, the instruction of mind training in bodhicitta, if you are able to develop the complete instruction within yourself, then there is no need to talk about the great benefit. But even if you are able to develop a partial understanding of these instructions, you will be able to dispel the darkness of afflictive emotions, the root afflictive emotions and the secondary afflictive emotions, which are induced by self-cherishing attitude, and more importantly, which are induced by self-grasping. There's the meaning of like the sun. And like a medicinal tree, if you have a complete, fully grown medicinal tree, then it has the capacity to dispel 424 different types of illnesses and sicknesses. Even if you get a part of the root of that tree, medicinal tree, or a fruit of that tree, or a branch of that tree, or a flower of that tree, even those parts of the tree, medicinal tree, will have the capacity to eliminate many of your physical illnesses. So likewise, what need is there to talk about the benefit of being able to cultivate the complete practice of bodhicitta in accordance with the complete instruction. But even if you are able to develop partial understanding and develop a partial quality, you will be able to, you can treat that as the sublime medicine by which you can remove 84,000 types of chronic illnesses, mental illnesses, right? And especially, Buddha came at a time when the 5 degenerations were developing. And especially today, we are living at the worst period of the time, even that of the 5 degenerations. Which means in the case was the sentient beings are called degeneration sentient beings, degenerated sentient beings, because what we primarily think about is afflictive emotions, how to develop attachment, how to develop negative computation, how to develop anger, how to develop jealousy. That is our main preoccupation, focus. And what we do is negative actions, destructive accumulation of destructive deeds, and one focuses only about one's own well-being. And whenever you see somebody prospering, you feel jealous. And whenever you see somebody experiencing misfortune, you rejoice. Okay? So apart from yourself, whoever encounters some development, some progress, some success, you burn with jealous. And your heart, your consciousness, pains, not being able to tolerate other people achieving success and peace. So whether physically, verbally, mentally, you engage in harming others. So that is what is prevailing in today's world. And it is because of this, all those beings who are supportive of positive spiritual practices, they also distance themselves from this, negative sentient beings. They go to other realms. Whereas the negative forces, non-human beings and other negative forces, their power grows, their force grows. And because of that, we see all kind of inauspiciousness in this world. And especially those who make an effort to enter into the Dharma practice, who engage in Dharma practice, they encounter a lot of obstacles and obstructions because there's no support, because the environment is not fruitful and conducive to such practices. So during such a situation, if you don't make effort in developing this bodhicitta, then it is not easy for you to achieve success. If you don't enter into this practice of reducing the self-cherishing attitude, the enemy, and fight with the self-grasping, then you will not be able to achieve much success. So therefore, having entered into such a practice, it is important not only that you achieve success in developing positive qualities, but even on those occasions when you encounter misfortune, calamities, difficulties, you should know how to transform those adverse circumstances and situations into positive ways of life, positive practices. If you are able to do that, then nothing can obstruct you, nothing can hamper you. So one of the main practice that you will see later on here in the mind training practice is transforming misfortune into path of practice. Like normally, ordinarily, when you encounter some difficulty, some problem, you get completely discouraged. Your mind gets completely, dampened, right? But if you are somebody who is not scared by sufferings and problems, who sees these sufferings and obstacles as challenges, sometimes I prefer using the word challenge than suffering. If you face challenge, you learn new experiences. You get new insights. Sometimes we give the example of 2 wrestlers. It's only by wrestling with another wrestler that your muscles grow. The wrestler actually seems to be obstructing your progress. That wrestler is wrestling with you, fighting with you. But by engaging in that fight, in that wrestling, Actually, that opponent is helping you develop your muscles, make you stronger. So similarly, when you face these challenges, difficulties, if you're able to, then nothing can stop you. So therefore, some of these mind training teachers, they make these prayers by saying, if I'm going to die tonight, wonderful. It's not like us. We are scared. Oh, we don't want even to talk about death. If I say, oh, I might die tonight, then the Tibetan people say, Tata the thing in the Nemahidas. That means don't say this ugly, unfortunate words. Don't. They don't even want to hear. But these great teachers, they say, if I'm going to die tonight, wonderful. When they say wonderful, don't think they are pessimistic and they have no much hope, they want to die. Not like that. The reason is they say, if I'm going to die tonight, it's wonderful because I will not continue to live doing destructive things for others. Therefore, it's good if I die tonight. But that doesn't mean they are pessimistic. And this prayer is followed by another prayer by saying, if I'm not going to die tonight, but going to live a long, long, healthy life, wonderful, because I live a long, healthy life and continue to help others. You see? So look at that. So it's really not so much about question of how long you are going to live, but it's talking about the quality of your life. Therefore, many of these texts, they say, like in the case of the Buddha, they say, the breathing of the Buddha, even the breathing of the Buddha is for others. You breathe and live for others, not for yourself. Okay? So if you live for 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, many years, if you're committed to that big project of helping others, then your life is meaningful. Contrarily, if you live a long life harming others, creating misery upon others, creating suffering upon others, then we have a saying in Tibetan, that means may the sinners have short life. It's not good, really. Okay? So if you enter into such a practice of developing bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding emptiness, and especially this special mind training practice, then you will be able to transform these misfortunes into the path, and whatever comes your way, they will all become a facilitating factor for your spiritual practice. So therefore, in this way, if you're able to see the obstructive factors as facilitating factors, if you're able to transform the obstructing factors as facilitating factors, then you will be called a wise person, a great person, a skillful person. And then nothing can stop you in your spiritual progress. If you don't have that perspective, don't have that insight, then that means when your stomach is full and basking in the warmth of the sun, then you look like a great religious practitioner. But as soon as you encounter misfortune, you reveal your true nature. That means then, like any ordinary person, you will say all the bad things, you will fight with other people, you see. Clear indication. But if you are somebody who is able to do this practice in all situations, then nothing can stop you. Now to reach that level, we have to really develop not only understanding based on your hearing, but there should be understanding based on thinking, and especially understanding based on meditation, personal experience. There should be strong conviction within yourself so that nobody can stop you. For that we need to study, reflect, not just listening to some talks and teachings, but one has to think, use one's own common sense. Human beings have such a big head, you see, so this big head is for thinking. And the problem is that we hardly do any thinking, we want others think for us. You see, there's the problem. Sometimes I jokingly tell people, you see, when we came into this world, as I already explained yesterday, when we came into this world, we came with a slogan. Okay? That slogan is crying. And by crying, you're asking for genuine love, genuine affection, You're saying that you want long-lasting peace and happiness. Okay? That's the slogan you made. But at that time, you also brought with you such a big head. And the head is so big that it takes nearly 6 months to lift the head, you see. Look at the baby, you see. Right? So that means you came into this world with the slogan to have love and affection, but you also came with a big head, meaning that genuine love and affection, if you want, you should cultivate that by using your big head, by thinking. But the problem is, even after we are able to lift our head, even after we get formal education and things like that, we hardly use our head. The brain scientists, they say, according to their scientific research, they say we use, I don't know how, very small percentage of our brain. We are unable to use the bigger percentage of the brain. Still, even the greatest scholars, they've used a very small percentage of the brain. So therefore you need to use this big head, use this brain, think for yourself. What is good for you? What is good for others? What is good temporarily? What is good in the long run? Think and then develop conviction. And once you are able to develop that conviction, it's very easy then. And you need to get habituated with these positive practices. And getting habituated with these positive practices is called meditation. Meditation is not sitting in a corner observing certain physical postures, not looking at others, I mean, that everybody can do. It looks great, You sit here, observe this posture, 6, 7, 8, whatever the posture, you observe it. It looks you are meditating, but you may be shopping in New York. Yeah, meditation has to be done by the mind, not by the body. Right? So it is the mind which has to get habituated with love, with compassion, with wisdom. Let me tell you a story. An old story. There was an Indian teacher who wanted to receive some special teaching to get enlightened. So he approached a Tibetan teacher. Okay? A Tibetan teacher. And he said, I want to get enlightened, but I want to know the secret, how to do the practice. Then the Tibetan teacher said, okay, I'll tell you. You just repeat these lines and think about it. Buddham sharanam gacchami, dhammam sharanam gacchami, sangham sharanam gacchami. I take refuge to Buddha, I take refuge to Dharma, I take refuge to Sangha. You repeat this. Oh, that's pretty easy, He felt that's pretty easy. So he said, thank you, and then he was leaving. And then the Tibetan teacher said, wait, I have to tell you one more thing. So what is it? So as I told you, you remember this, repeat these lines, think about these lines. But there's one thing that you should not think. That is, don't think about monkeys. Don't think about monkey. He said, what is this? This is so simple. Why should I think about monkey? Why should I think about monkey? So he went to his home, and he started this recitation. Monkey was the only thing that was coming in his mind. It was all over the place, you see. So that is the nature of a mind, If you ask the mind to do something, it will not listen, it will rebel, they want to do something, you see. So therefore you need to tell the mind, no. This is not what I want, you do this, you do this. And that is exactly what the sixth Dalai Lama in his songs, romantic songs they call it, where he said, the face of my teacher which I meditate never comes in my mind. The face of my girlfriend which I don't meditate always come in my mind. You see, absolutely true. That clearly shows in what area you are habituated. You see. So the mind has this tendency of, wanting to do only those things in which you are familiar. It doesn't want to do those things which are not familiar, or the rest of the people are not doing. You feel lonely. Why should I do this? Others are not doing. Kind of attitude. So therefore, it is important to develop personal conviction, and whether others are doing or not doing, that is not your business. You should make it a point to get habituated. Get habituated. That's called meditation. Yangdan Yangdo Sembatan, Jeldang Yado Gombe Lam, Yangdan Yangdo Semba, repeatedly thinking about those positive topics, positive subjects, and make it a part of your life. That's why in Buddhism we have this threefold process of study: hearing, thinking, meditation. Most of us don't even hear. Look at this now. Forget about the other steps, levels. Don't even think, don't even hear, don't even go to listen to teachings. People think it's better that I watch a cricket or a movie or things like that. We don't even go to hear teaching. And there are some who come to hear the teaching, they never do their homework, never do any personal reflection, thinking. So therefore you never realize the importance of the teaching. So it's important to hear. Then after you have heard the teaching, then you buy this text and you think about the meaning again and again, so that you don't forget it. And through thinking, when you are able to develop the conviction, then you need to meditate, which means make that subject as a part of your life. It's not enough just study about compassion. What is compassion? It's a mind wishing other sentient beings without suffering. How many types of compassion there are? 3 types of compassions are there. Which are they? 1, 2, 3. You keep on learning all this. Then somebody asks you the question, okay, this looks beautiful. Do you have the compassion? No, sir, I don't have any. Chukzi Chukne Dangwatar. This is called Chukzi Chukne Dangwatar. There was a guy who used to count hundreds of sheep every day. Okay? And then one of his friends one day said that you seem to be a very rich person. You have all these sheep that you count every day. And he said, no, I'm just a servant. I don't have even one sheep. I'm servant. So I look after them, I count them, I don't have even one sheep. So we will become like that person. We count all this. Chamba, Ningje, Changju, Se, you count this. Do you have? No, sir. You see, that doesn't help, that doesn't help. So, I mean, it's not easy to have them, but small things you can do. One thing that I can safely and confidently tell you is, again, interestingly, many people don't start from the beginning, small things, they want to achieve something big overnight. That is impossible, because the so-called big things come from small things. Small things we can do. It's taking by one step that you come closer to your destination. Moving one step further, you come closer to the destination. So like that, just giving something to somebody who is hungry, just extending a helping hand, you see, just talking nicely to somebody who is not very happy. Small things like that. You start doing those things. Or just presenting, just giving a flower to somebody, make that person happy, or just smiling, So many things you can do to make other people happy. And if you start doing these things, then gradually it will become a part of your life. And without any difficulty, you will do it. So in this text called Bodhicharyavatara, Shantideva says that it's all question of training the mind. If your mind gets trained, then even if you have to sacrifice your body for others, and somebody comes to, chop your hand or things like that, it will be like us letting somebody chop vegetable. Because right now we are not able to do that because we have so much grasping. My body, my body, this obsession. Whereas with the cabbage, or any kind of vegetable, you let other people chop it because you don't have this obsession. This is my, body. You'll feel a little bit disturbed because if you say this is my cabbage, again you get a little bit difficulty, you see. My cabbage. Right? But if you get, it really seems like it is possible. One clear example that I can give is a mother who may not be very well versed in Buddhist teaching or anything like that, but because she has so much love for her child, that if the child, let us say, falls into a pit of fire, the mother, without a second question, without hesitation, she will jump to save that child. So that shows our capacity to do things if we have their love. If we don't have this strong self-grasping and self-cherishing attitude, it's possible. It's possible. All right? So what we need is continuous training. First of all, you see the benefit, then after that, continuous practice, continuous practice. There is nothing that doesn't become easy if you start doing it. There's nothing. Okay? Maybe one or two questions if you have, then we stop. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So how do you balance this mindset when you are working in business?
When you're working?
Yes.
One thing that you need to remember is the Buddha never asks anybody to do anything that you are incapable of doing it. Okay? So he's basically saying, try your best. That we can do in all situations. Try your best. All right? Try your best. And you will find many opportunities wherever you are. There are occasions when it will be difficult, but there are many occasions where it is easy to do things. Do it. All right? Yeah?
What are your thoughts on mercy death?
Mercy killing.
Yeah.
Mercy killing. Normally, it depends on the situation actually. Okay? But generally speaking, like, you should not just take away somebody's life saying that, okay, this person is in a difficult situation, so I have love and affection and my wish is that he or she, do not continue to suffer, so therefore you pull the oxygen or whatever, that kind of mercy killing. So it depends on, I'm saying that it depends on the situation, because if that person, sick person, is in such a situation that he was, say, in a coma or in a difficult situation for so many months or even years, and it's very expensive to maintain that patient, especially in the West, it's so expensive, and causing a lot of problem to the families, and there is also no real hope that that person is able to recover. And more importantly, if you are sure that the person's mind is also not functioning or things like that, then theoretically mercy killing is possible. But you have to be very careful. If you are not so sure and if you make a hasty, decision, it might, amount to killing.
But what would a bodhisattva do in such a case?
So whoever, you are bodhisattva, anybody, you have to judge the situation very carefully. Very carefully. Don't make hasty, conclusions or decisions. Judge very carefully. Okay? Like for example, the great lamas who enter into meditative state after their death, that means they are clinically dead, but biologically not dead. So that's why we make it very sure that that person's, the lama's spirit is gone or still he is meditating. You have to really see, watching his breath or whatever, Then when it's sure, the indication is that person is dead, is that the blood and the sputum, they come from the nose. Then it's an indication that the mind is spirited. Then you can dispose of that body. But so like that, you have to be very careful, judge the situation properly. Yeah. Any other questions? Everything resolved? Okay, thank you. Good night.